Welcome to the Arlington Street Church podcast. Founded in 1729, Arlington Street continues today as a gathering place for progressive people of faith in the greater Boston area and beyond. We are located at the corner of Arlington and Boylston Streets, across from the Public Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.
About 6 years ago, I walked over to the Newbury Hotel, which was called the Taj at the time. I was on an errand and a little nervous because it's such a nice hotel. And I'm never sure how someone who usually dresses in jeans and otherwise has a fairly low-key look would be received. I walked up to the reception desk, and the agent asked if he could help me. Why, yes. My name's Art, and I belong to Arlington Street Church down the street. Our minister was given an umbrella by Jim Goshen as a gift, and she has misplaced it. Would it be possible for me to purchase a replacement, as I know it has a lot of sentimental value to her? The agent listened to me closely and maintained eye contact throughout. The second I finished, I noticed his eyes soften. You see, Jim Goshen had worked there as a concierge and had passed away a year and a half prior. Jim had attended Sunday services here in the years before his passing, sitting in the balcony with his husband. The agent said, "Let me see what I can do," and stepped into the office behind the counter. The day before this, Reverend Kim had conducted the marriage ceremony of our own Jen and Hala on one of the harbor islands. The weather didn't cooperate early in the day, and it was still a bit rainy as Reverend Kim and other guests headed to the ferry for the trip to the wedding venue. Fortunately, the rain stopped in time for the ceremony and reception. But by the time everyone was ready for the return ferry trip, her umbrella was long forgotten and left behind. When the agent returned from the office, I had my credit card ready, but he instead presented a new umbrella to me and said, "Please take this to your minister with our compliments." I replied, "Thank you." And she really did love Jim very much. He nodded with a warm look in his eyes and a smile, and I could tell he missed Jim as well. I really shouldn't have been surprised at the hospitality I received at the Taj that day. Before Jim worked there, he was much beloved in the Boston LGBTQ community as a fun, kind-hearted fundraiser whose big productions were always enjoyable and hugely successful. The agent no doubt learned a lot from him. Jim Goshen presente. Each Sunday, right from the top of the service, we set a tone of radical hospitality in our welcome and greetings. We are called to love with open minds, open hearts, and open hands. Whoever you are, those of all nations, all creeds, all colors, all kinds of love, you are welcome here. Friends, whether you've been coming here for years or today is your very first time at Arlington Street, welcome home. Our worship service is carefully crafted to ensure that newcomers, whether on Zoom or in person, never feel lost, but instead feel included, seen, and valued. This radical hospitality is not new. It was one of the reasons the National Park Service selected Arlington Street as one of 8 grant recipients to help preserve America's equal rights history. This past spring, as that award was announced, we shared information in the pews about the long and prominent role Arlington Street has played in the movement for LGBTQ equality. This coincided, of course, with our celebration of 35 years of Reverend Kim's ministry with us. Before the congregation called Reverend Kim as the first open lesbian minister in Boston back in 1989, our leaders were already providing support for the marginalized community. Much of this early support came from the simple act of providing safe, welcoming spaces for organizations to meet. A radical hospitality that resulted from literally just opening the door. Here are a few examples. In 1969, the Boston chapter of the Daughters of Bilitis met upstairs in the Clark Room. This was the first lesbian civil and political rights organization in the country. In 1977, the Boston chapter of Dignity began meeting at Arlington Street. Dignity has championed equality, acceptance, and dignity within the Catholic Church for 5 decades. In 1981, Bagley, now known as the Boston Alliance of LGBTQ+ Youth, hosted the country's first youth prom in the basement here at Arlington Street. And of course, in 1984, largely in response to the suffering caused by the AIDS pandemic in the gay community, Arlington Street and Dignity co-founded the Friday Night Supper program, which continues to this day, serving hot, nutritious meals in a safe and dignified environment to anyone in need. One important point to note is that the congregation during these times was primarily composed of straight allies who were intentionally gathering in the heart of Boston. Some, like Don and Phyllis Richter of blessed memory, actually lived in nearby suburbs. This neighborhood, and especially this block of Boylston, was quite different back then. There wasn't a Bain Capitol building going up across the street, and there weren't million-dollar condos nearby. Instead, there was a Greyhound bus terminal right around the corner on Stewart Street. The congregation recognized the significance of the moral calling of the day and responded with action. Exploring the etymology of the word hospitality reveals intriguing insights into our interactions. On SpanishDictionary.com, I found a discussion explaining why the Spanish word huésped can be translated as both guest and its apparent opposite, host. The term huésped derives from the Latin word hospes, or hospitus, which is the root of English words like hospitality, hospice, and hospitable. The original Latin term hospes didn't focus on the individuals themselves, but rather on the relationship between strangers. It described a reciprocal bond of friendship or mutuality, essentially a mutual obligation of hospitality. This understanding deepens our view of hospitality at Arlington Street. By opening our doors and offering a warm welcome, we create an environment where healing and resilience can emerge and hopefully thrive. Our hospitality goes beyond merely providing a space. It's about nurturing relationships and building a supportive community where everyone feels seen and valued. With this in mind, we see that the sacred space of Sunday mornings doesn't begin with the prelude or end with the postlude, important and beautiful as they are for framing our worship together. Instead, all the conversations and greetings that happen before service and afterward, in the online coffee hour, in the aisles and pews, or over refreshments in the chapel, are equally holy. These moments are where our community excels in listening, whether simply to hear and witness, to walk alongside, to provide support, or, when asked, to offer feedback and brainstorm solutions to life's challenges. Connie Goodbread is the acting director of Hope for Us conflict engagement team at the UUA and offers this perspective. When I take the time to acknowledge others, to understand their view of the world, and take their experiences into my heart as part of the human story, I am changed. I know I am never finished, but always becoming. I am grateful for the loving patience of others who support my struggle. I take comfort in the grace and forgiveness I receive from others when I make a mistake. Holding heart space for each other for 1 hour each week is just the beginning. It's a spiritual practice that we then carry into our corners of the world. This is the prophetic hospitality that Reverend Kim would say makes us ambassadors of this life-saving faith. Reverend Rebecca Parker shares this view. The spiritual and ethical challenge of our faith is to stay grounded in this love together. Not sentimental love, but strong and fierce love. Not polite kindness, but profound respect and willingness to be changed by our relationships with one another. Not mere tolerance of differences, but accountability for the character of our interactions. For all this, we need spiritual practices that strengthen our ability to know ourselves as beloved, to relate to one another as beloveds, and to extend the reach of love in ever-widening circles of embrace. During graduation season in May, our own Rick Cresta received the Excellence in Teaching Award at BU's graduation ceremony. In the award ceremony, accolades from his students in social work were read. Rick Cresta is human, genuine, and kind. Everyone feels comfortable taking risks. Rick taught us to be better people. He also gave a brief speech where he expressed gratitude to his students. It's been a joy to learn and grow with you in the classroom and beyond. I have a great deal of respect for those who choose this profession. You are dedicated to creating a more just world in spite of the forces in opposition to this. This keeps me motivated and optimistic about our field and about society's future. Rick is modeling how to extend the reach of prophetic hospitality to his students and to the world through their work. To further reflect on the mutual relationship of hospitality at Arlington Street, consider this quote from Rumi. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it and embrace them. I'm going to read that one more time. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it and embrace them. The ministry of Arlington Street has long centered on the restorative and transformative power of love. This ministry is embedded in our interdependence with each other, with our ministers, and with the communities in which we live, work, and play. It's kind of our superpower. This task that Rumi presents is far from easy, but in this spiritual community, it can become a task supported by so much loving kindness. It can become a creative endeavor with room for playfulness, imagination, and joy. The quotes from Connie Goodbread and Rebecca Parker are from a book published earlier this year titled Love at the Center, Unitarian Universalist Theologies. This book was released as the Unitarian Universalist Association completed a revision of a portion of its bylaws that articulate the shared values of our member congregations. This multi-year process led to the proposed revisions being accepted by a vote at the General Assembly held in June. Our congregation sent delegates to the General Assembly, so we were definitely a part of the process, even though many of us don't usually focus that closely on this aspect of our denomination's business proceedings. There will be other opportunities to hear more about General Assembly and our delegates' experience there, but I want to highlight one significant resolution that affirmed support for trans, non-binary, and intersex people. This business resolution passed with a remarkable 92% of the vote and represents a crucial step for the UUA. It strengthens our commitment to trans justice and recognizes that supporting trans, non-binary, and gender-diverse people is essential to spiritual fulfillment and UU values. This may be the most powerful denominational support for trans individuals ever made by any organized religion. However, the proceedings where the resolution was discussed and debated did cause harm. A blog post by Alex Capitan explained clearly what happened. Alex wrote this explanation for both our UU friends and also for those outside of UU spaces. This is what Alex says in a portion of their blog post. There is no debate about whether trans people are beloved or real or worthy or divine. There is no debate about whether Unitarian Universalism calls its adherents to advocate for justice for trans, non-binary, intersex, and gender-diverse people. and create spaces of safety and resilience for us. The only uncertainty is whether UUs will actually live out these values and commitments in a way that matches the needs of this moment. So let us recommit to actively embodying our values of love and hospitality. Our goal is to create a community where everyone feels genuinely welcomed and valued, not just in our statements, but in our actions every day. I invite you to read Alex's full blog post at rootsgrowthetree.com. Again, that's going to be rootsgrowthetree.com. Or simply search for UUA Trans Rights Business Resolution to find Alex's insightful blog. And I note that today marks the end of our summer sermon series. You might have noticed that we have one new practice of hospitality in the reintroduction of name tags. This is a simple way to help newcomers learn our names and to help them feel immediately known and included in this beloved spiritual community. Needless to say, name tags are also a very friendly way to help our new transitional senior minister learn all of our names when she is in the pulpit next Sunday. My beloved spiritual companions, let us live into the mutual obligation of hospitality by leaning into relationship and allowing ourselves to be changed for good. Let us embrace the barriers to love within us to help healing and resilience emerge and thrive for ourselves, for each other, and for the world. Let us deliver on the promise of Unitarian Universalism and create spaces that are truly welcome and that truly value everybody. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. And now for our benediction, I invite you to put your hands over your heart in Namaste. I bow to the divine in you. For today's benediction, we'll close with a future-shaping spell by Adrienne Marie Brown. What we will see in 20 years is what we shape. Right now, let's shape the future. We claim the power of our outrageous grief, our righteous anger, our responsibility for our precious lives, our interconnected individual and collective joy, and our impossible magic. We embrace our edges that they may teach us to grow in right relationship to the living world, our human messiness, our weird and brilliant wonders. We know how to be in so many incredible ways. With these gifts, we can foment a revolutionary now that centers love, care, needs, creativity, and magic. We plant the seeds of radical honesty, vulnerability, authenticity, and the kindness that eases inevitable change. We will not settle. We will grow weirder and wilder, more interdependent for our liberation, for our liberation, for our liberation. Let's keep this faith, beloveds, and pass it on. The service begins when the service ends. Bless your hearts. I love you. Amen.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are mine. happy end of summer.
Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.